to you this fall with a new video series that I've been working on, and it is called Seasonal Sides. I thought about this because, you know, I think that dinner can get repetitive and boring sometimes, and you think about it's sort of easy to pick a protein. You know, we're going to marinate some chicken, or we're going to make steak or burgers or something, and then you think about your sides and you're like, oh, is it green beans again? Is it just, corn again? Are we just going to have baked beans again? Whatever. So I thought I'd introduce you each month, September through November, to some interesting side dishes that maybe could, kind of jazz up what you've got going on for dinner. This is September, and my first recipe is for a classic French ratatouille, but there is an addition of some cream and some smokiness from some paprika, so it's zhuzhed up a little bit, if you will. This is a delicious recipe, and being that it's September, you still have tons of fresh produce available. You know, you can go to the farmer's market and get, your yellow squash, your zucchini, your fresh tomatoes, onions, bell peppers. There's eggplant in this recipe. It's really a beautiful, beautiful casserole when it comes out of the oven too, all the colors of the vegetables. Probably many of you, or at least your children, have seen the movie Ratatouille, about the French rat who, helps the chef work in the kitchen with him. Really, the Ratatouille is the chef, And just a little funny story before I start. Back when I was cooking in kitchens professionally, there was a little boy that came through the kitchen for a kitchen tour, and he asked me if Ratatouille was working that night, and I didn't want to break his heart, so I just told him it was his day off. So I thought that was really cute. I liked that. So to prep and start this ratatouille, here's what we've got going on here. For our sauce, I've got 1 large sweet white onion, diced, 1 red bell pepper, diced, 1 big 28-ounce can of Cento crushed tomatoes. So we've got all that stuff ready there when we go over to the stove to start creating our sauce. But you've also got some vegetable prep to do here as well, okay? So I had 2 eggplant, 2 yellow squash, 2 zucchini, and 4 tomatoes. What I did with my eggplant, also I didn't keep it in rounds. I cut it again in half because these are stacking. That would be much too big. But anyway, I sliced them thin, everything as thin as possible. You want this dish to be just really lush and velvety when it comes out. So slice all your veg as thin as you can get it. So I sliced my eggplants and I put them on paper towels here, and then I liberally salted them. Now that's going to draw out moisture because an eggplant, if you didn't know, is like a wet sponge inside, essentially. And I don't know anyone who wants to eat a wet sponge. So the best way to prep eggplant for anything that you're doing is to cut it, lay it down, salt it, leave it for hour and a half. This has been sitting, it's about 12:30 now. This has been sitting since about 10:30 this morning. And I put paper towels on top. You would not believe the amount of liquid that I got off of these. So they're going to be tender, and they're going to not have so much liquid in them. It's going to make for a much better dish, and it won't end up being a big watery, disgusting mess. So I'm just going to chop my remaining ingredients here. I've got 1 more squash, zucchini, and tomato, and once again, you just run your knife through it, little thin rounds. Super quick to do. This is something, if you have some kind of like slicing gadget, I guess you could run it through that, but I figure it's just as quick to just run a knife through it and sit your veg off to the side. This is you could honestly just really eat this as a main dish too if you're vegetarian, or if you do some people do like meatless Mondays, or also with the price of groceries, you might be buying less meat like I am because wowza, meat's expensive right now. And with this sauce and like a crusty, the sauce in the ratatouille, the crusty bread on the side, I don't think you're going to miss that there's not meat in your meal necessarily. I do wish these little zucchinis had been bigger, but they're not, and that's okay. You know, you kind of want everything as uniform as possible because it just looks prettier, but you know, this is not going to affect the quality of the dish or the taste of the dish when it comes out of the oven whatsoever. And then just also thin slices of tomato. I'm going to cut the little tail off here. We're not going to use him. Thin, paper thin slices. If you've never had a ratatouille, I mean, some people chunk up their vegetables and it almost looks like a big kind of vegetable stew almost, but I really like the presentation of the layers that I'm going to show you how we do. So all of my prep here is finished. Why don't you join me over at the stove in just a moment and I will show you how to quickly get this sauce together. Okay guys, we're over at the stove now. We've begun the process of creating our sauce for our ratatouille. In a saucepan here, I've added a couple glugs of olive oil to the pan. You can use extra virgin if you want to. I just used regular pure olive oil. It has a lower smoke point, so I typically cook with that if it's going to be like in a skillet or something, and I use the extra virgin for like marinades and dressings, things that aren't going over heat because I don't want to create a big smoke storm. I have put on about kind of a medium high heat my 1 white onion, my 1 red bell pepper into this pan to kind of soften this up. You want these things to get soft and a little translucent. You don't want them to brown. We're not caramelizing anything here today. We are just sauteing. To this, I'm going to add my 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I know that I've spoken in other videos about my love for the San Marzano, which I do have a big love for the San Marzano. In a recipe like this though, you know, you don't need that much of a top of the line tomato. That's something I would use when tomato is the entire focus, like for a spaghetti sauce, a marinara, a pizza sauce, something like that. But, you know, these canned crushed tomatoes are all excellent, and I really do love this brand. So you put the whole thing in there. We are going to need 4 cloves of garlic minced. I've also talked before about how I hate mincing, so check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm an eyeballer, and I'm pretty good at it. So if you're not good at it, certainly measure. But if you trust yourself, you know, you certainly can just dash things in at will. Going to put in about a teaspoon of white sugar to cut a little of that acidity from this crushed tomato here. And that's just going to make the sauce less acidic. It's not necessarily going to make it sweet. We are going to add in black pepper. I'm a black pepper fan, so, you know, I think this recipe calls for half a teaspoon. I probably will go a little heavier than that just because I really enjoy it. So throw some of that in there. We need some salt because these tomatoes are not salted. Nothing in this pot is salted right now. So I'll do what I think, and then I'll taste it. Oh, did you see that bubbling up in the center? It was giving me attitude. Oh my gosh, sauce. Okay, so we've got that in. Now, to bring in that little smoky component that I was talking about before, I've got some Hungarian smoked paprika here. This recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. I'm going to toss that in. Smoked paprika, not sweet for this recipe. There is a difference, and you can easily find both. They're both good to have in your kitchen arsenal for different reasons. And then, would this be a French recipe without some herbes de Provence? Well, I guess, yeah, it still could be. But we're going to do about a tablespoon of this stuff. This is great. It's got everything you need in it, right? So it's got the savory, the fennel, the thyme, the rosemary, and a little bit of lavender. And that is a beautiful touch in this recipe. Really yummy. So here we go. Get everything incorporated. This is going to be really, really delicious. Some herbs on that side that I need to incorporate there. There we go. I also have some fresh thyme here, and I'm just going to peel these little tiny stalks just to get the little leaves in. This is what they look like. Just throw some of those in. I'll give it a nice fresh thyme flavor. We're going to brush the dish with thyme at the end as well, with thyme and some olive oil. So don't need too much, but it is a nice addition. These stalks are so tiny. Sometimes they're nice and long and it's easy to pick the leaves off, but these are little guys, so they're kind of making me work for it, but that's okay. Oh, the sauce is bubbling. Okay, so our next step here is to add in half a cup of heavy cream. And if you don't like heavy cream, I have got no words for you. This is going to make it nice and creamy and silky with all of those vegetables. It's going to be, heavy cream is just a delightful invention, really. Okay, so we're going to get that all incorporated. And the last little things we are going to do is I've got some, where is it? Oh, here it is. Some fresh julienne basil, just a little bit that I'm going to toss in there and incorporate. And the recipe does not call for this, but I'm doing it because, like Tabitha Brown, the chef and TV personality, says, you know, that's my business. So this little addition of some Parmesan is my business. More goes on top of the dish, but I think why not add a little extra nutty, creamy factor in there. I love Parmesan cheese for that nutty flavor that it gives off. It is just so salty and nutty and yummy. And I would always buy, this is pre-shaved, which I don't typically love, but it is so good. I usually buy it myself and shave it myself, but I'm not always in the mood to do that. Okay, this sauce comes together quick, as you can see here. So why don't you meet me back over at the counter. We're going to put this whole thing together and pop her in the oven. See you in a few. Hi everybody, so we are back over at the countertop now. We've got our beautiful tomato, onion, bell pepper, cream sauce here with all of our herbs inside of it. I did forget to mention at the stove, but I did add it in. You need a couple tablespoons, couple glugs of balsamic vinegar as well, which I did put in over at the stove. Forgot to mention that to you guys. Now we're going to take a casserole dish, and actually your oven should be preheated to 350, so don't forget to do that, guys. Mine is. We're going to take a casserole dish here, and we're going to layer in about 3/4 of this sauce. It's going to go all along the bottom. This sauce smells so good, you guys. I feel like I'm in a... Actually, I don't feel like I'm in France. I feel like I'm in an Italian pizzeria. But whatever. It's delicious. It's just a hearty, you know, side. Or a, like I said, or not a side. All right, we're going to leave the rest out here. And then how we get our vegetables in, So I've made a couple stacks I'm going to show you guys. And this is, you know, one of each thing. A squash, an eggplant, a zucchini, a tomato, a squash, an eggplant, a zucchini, a tomato, on and so forth. And what you do, I might actually do a little circular motion. You can do whatever you want. It is your ratatouille. Then you just start building them in like this. See, push them down into the sauce. They stand up. I'm gonna keep doing this for a while. When you come back, you'll see it all finally prepared. Then we'll throw it in the oven and top it. Be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back. As you can see, I have arranged my stacks of vegetables, nestled them into the sauce here, made it look very pretty. With the remaining sauce, I'm just going to tuck it into the sides of the vegetables here. We want to make sure there's sauce everywhere around the sides and down in the bottom. This stuff is so good, and it, you know, it reheats nicely as well. You can throw the leftover of these in some containers, Tupperwares, and, you know, bring this for lunch throughout the week. Like I said, if you want to bring like a little sandwich with it or just a piece of toasty baguette, you could do that. Eat it on its own. But it really is, and it's so luscious with the cream and the cheese and everything, you know, the sauce, and the way that these vegetables get so soft. I don't think we're gonna need any more than that, really. Good, I'll have a little bit of extra sauce. That really, this dish becomes creamy and velvety, and you don't feel like you're just eating a whole bunch of vegetables. But guess what? You are, and good for you, as you should be. So I'm going to take a little more, just a little, and this extra parm here. Give it a little on top. Remember, we did sneak some into the sauce because that's what I wanted to do, and that's my business. Last little thing here, I've got some dried thyme, and with some olive oil, I'm going to do just a little brush of that over the top here, over the cheese and the vegetables, just to impart a little more of that herby flavor. Okay, guys, we're going to pop this in a 350 oven. About 25 minutes maybe, until it's bubbling and perfect, and I'll take it out and yum. You can take a look at what it's like when it's finished. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys, so as you can see, we have baked our creamy smoky ratatouille. It is beautiful. We've got some little bubbling here from that cheese on top. The vegetables are all soft and melted together. I'm gonna let it is piping hot, so I'm not going to pull it from the dish. I'm going to let it set up a little bit because I want those juices to thicken a little bit and distribute well, so you don't pull out, you know, a big soggy mess. But when you are ready to serve, you know, just take a serving spatula and get yourself a portion of stack here. You know, put it on your plate. You can add a little bit more parm if you'd like. I would like it, you know, with a crusty baguette, like I've said. So use up that summer bounty this September and make yourself a classic French ratatouille. Also, I should mention that the month of September, for my spice kits, the spice kits are French ratatouille. So you can come to the library starting September 1st until all of the bags are out. And this is a Spice World spice kit that I do, where you pick up a bag that has all of the spices and herbs that you need for your recipe, a recipe card so you know what else you need to buy, and a brief history of the recipe. So swing by and get one of those starting September 1st and enjoy. Thank you. Bonjour.